Hello.
Hi.
What's up? Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Just going live here to talk about codependency and attachment, and if this is going to be relevant for you if you are you feel anxious sometimes in your relationship or your last relationship, and you're maybe with a partner who is withdrawn, quiet,
Or just kind of not really participating in the relationship conversation.
Yeah.
Or in talking about how to do things or how to not do things in the relationship.
It starts to feel one way a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So this is for you. We'll be live here. You're welcome to ask questions shortly. We have a class coming up Friday at 2 p.m. Mountain Time on this subject. So we're going to go deeper in that class. And that will be an hour and a half long, almost 2 hours long, right? Okay. I'll share that link here shortly. Okay. So
how would you like to dive in?
I think
these are big things to try to cover in a brief period, but we're gonna see how we do.
Yeah. Well, I think you might have seen my post on Instagram the other day about with the animation, and the drawing was like, I give to you, right? I help you in our relationship, but you don't help me. And it feels kind of one way. And then in a mutual relationship that's secure and strong, it's like a figure eight on its side. Mm-hmm. The energy goes both ways. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're trying to live in our life here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of us, if we're using the term codependency, we're going to use that lightly because for some people it can feel like a heavy term.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it comes from an addiction model, and
where one person's helping the addicted person.
Yeah.
And that came out of the, co-alcoholic sort of was the original term.
Yeah. Yeah. And there is real value. I think people have picked up on that term. We see codependency in lots of other kinds of relationships, not just where there's addiction going on, but where there's, one person who is maybe just not very engaged and involved in a mutual way in the relationship, and another person who's over functioning in the relationship. And so that starts to feel unfair, imbalanced, and starts to create insecurity. So there are ways in which codependency and insecure attachment start to look kind of similar.
They look similar. Yeah. And on Friday we'll unpack that even more around attachment and what that is. And I'm thinking of, I'm just for some reason thinking of a couple relationships I know about.
Okay.
Where they're codependent relationships where one person, let's say, is sober and has years of sobriety, but still is really struggling with mental health problems, for example. And the helper in the relationship is the codependent. And they're constantly just looking after the other person. And that it kind of works for this particular couple I'm thinking of.
Yeah,
they're still married. Mm-hmm. On the outside, it looks like they have a good or great relationship. But when you kind of peel back the curtain, it's very imbalanced. And one person's basically in their childhood strategy trying to help a sick parent, but it's now their partner. And the other person's grateful because it's like, oh, you helped me.
Mm-hmm. And they're somewhat kind of compromised in some ways. They don't function that well in life. And so, the help seems very needed. But I think what ends up happening is that neither partner can really grow and develop as an individual. Yeah. And then they can't really grow and develop as a couple because they're sort of stuck in this, you're compromised, I overfunction to sort of make your life work and our life work. And that's what's holding all this together. And it's just, no one can grow, I guess.
Yeah, and it starts to be built on just kind of childhood strategies, which is like a house of cards, that if you're not, at least looking at your relationship and your pattern and like, wow, I keep over-functioning here and it kind of works for us, but I'm having health problems now myself. I'm feeling burnt out. I'm feeling resentful. And like, wait, what about a mutual dynamic here? Mm-hmm. I think a lot of you might be in relationships either like that, or your last relationship, or you're still in a relationship where you're with, an easy way to think about it is I overfunction, you underfunction, right? You're with an underfunctioning partner, which just means, like you said, they're, for whatever reason, they're just not totally engaged or on board, or they're just pretty withdrawn and avoiding and busy.
Yeah. And there's ways that people can have different capacities physically, psychologically, and still be collaborative and work together, cooperate together to make sure they both feel good. You don't have to do everything exactly the same. We're not talking about that. We're really just talking about this spirit of being mutually invested and working together to make sure that this feels really good to both of you. And sometimes people in these relationships can't even, that's like a big leap to even think about that, because they're like, well, we're doing what we have to do to make this work, versus really thinking about how, something more optimal maybe.
Yeah, an optimal meaning we both get our needs met, we both are having a good time here, good experience. We have conflict, we have challenges, we have problems, but we work on those together like a team, and we start behaving and acting like a team over time,
Yeah, I mean, I think in codependency and in insecurity, in both those kinds of relationships, you'll hear people say things like, oh, well, we can't talk about that. Or, oh, we don't ever try to do that anymore. Or like things start there start to be these like have tos and cannots.
Right.
And like, well, we have to do it this way or else. And it just, you start to hear that people aren't actually really choosing and creating together what they really want to have and how they really want to be. And I get that we all have different ranges of choices, but there is a sense of we're kind of stuck in how this is how it has to be. And yeah, it kind of sucks, but this is the deal. There's sort of a resignation.
Yeah, and it's so sad when you feel like you can't bring your voice and your truth and your experience into the relationship, and your emotions and whatever your feelings are. I think of another term that you hear is people start feeling like they're walking on eggshells.
Oh, yeah.
Or tiptoeing around, because I wouldn't want to upset my kind of resistant partner, because I then lose connection and we're in a bad place, and I'm taking scraps. I'm taking everything I can here, and it's good enough for me. And people will go years in this kind of relationship. And we're here to say you don't have to do that.
You don't have to. And if you're starting to wake up to like, wait, I think there's something else that's possible, we're saying, yes, there is. Yeah. There is. And it really just takes one person kind of waking up to like, wait a second, I do want things to evolve. We've done things this way long enough. I'm interested in something else, or expanding our ideas about how this has to be. And that person can lead the way. But I mean, ultimately both of you would have to want the same thing.
Yeah. And by the way, that person is you, right?
Yeah, that's on this call.
You can take charge here and lead this into a new chapter of your life, but it's going to require that you look in the mirror in a way you haven't in a long time. Some of you are aware of this. Some of you are maybe just waking up to it. But the helper or the fixer or the codependent types in relationships tend to focus on the other person at the expense of themselves. So we're saying, okay, it's time to look in the mirror. Yeah,
and balance that out. And really, pretty much every couple I see, and this might be true for you, really wants more equity in their relationship. That's just our modern situation, is that we want relationships where we both are contributing. We are, deciding for ourselves what our roles are, what our responsibilities are, and how we want to kind of sail through life together. So
yeah, and these days we want to share power. In my parents' generation, it was like man has X amount of power, woman has X amount of power. Now it's like a good relationship is shared power in our experience.
Yeah, I think that what we're seeing is that sharing power has more longevity and more mutual satisfaction, and it's more complex. It's harder to share power than just to have power. So to work that out together, it does take more communication. It takes more creativity, but the benefits seem to be really profound when that is occurring.
So if any of you have a question, we're going to hop off soon. We don't want to take too much of your time today, but again, there's a link that's pinned here in the Instagram live anyway, relationshipschool.com/masterclass if you want to join us on Friday. Live. It's a live class with Ellen and I, and it's going to be awesome. So that's the link there. But if you have a question, you're welcome to type it in the chat. I'm going to just search some of the chats here. If there is a question, most of you have just sort of joining and saying hello. Yes, you can watch this again. It'll be on my Instagram account, and I will tag Ellen. Okay, Ginger's saying, I'm always attracting codependent friendships. Please help me understand why.
Yeah. I think that where I go with that is there's a chance that in your background, like where you grew up, how you grew up, your family, I'm thinking, way back when, you may have grown up in relationships where it served you to prioritize other people and to not really bring out your own needs, your own perspectives, even your own feelings, and to just sort of be adaptable and to make things feel good for other people. And, this is written about in the codependency literature and in the attachment literature, is that that can kind of point you towards having adult relationships where you're still doing that adaptive strategy. And haven't really made the leap into, sharing power, having, prioritizing mutuality in your friendships and in partnerships. I think with the people that are closest to us, that are most important to us, our partners, our peers, mutuality feels best.
Yeah, and you want to start to get comfortable with the term mutuality, and that we actually help each other. I help you, you help me. I challenge you, you challenge me.
I listen to you, you listen to me.
You're open to feedback, I'm open to feedback.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, and I think you'll find your way.
Yeah. So might just be what's familiar, but it is changeable.
Yeah. All right, quick one from Nikki. How do you recommend that overperforming or overfunctioning partner begin drawing new boundaries that feel like I am being selfish? Exactly. That's one of the things you're going to be up against, because the overfunctioner tends to get socially rewarded for being such a great friend and being there for everybody. And so the moment you do something for yourself, you're selfish. And selfish equals bad or wrong. And another way to think about it is prioritizing yourself and your heart and your needs rather than selfish. I know selfish has kind of a loaded connotation there. So you could change the term to fit you so that you can step into it more.
Which is like, maybe you're including yourself now in the relationship.
I like that.
I want to include myself here. And it's not that we have to start disincluding our partner, let's say, but including ourselves. And, I also think it's good to have a conversation with someone about this. Like, look, I feel really overextended and like I'm not actually honoring myself in these ways enough. And I need to look after that. Really, no one else can look after ourselves in that way. It's even hard for our partners to do that. So we really do need that part of ourselves that can advocate for what we need and want, what our boundaries are. And then, but bring it in as like, this could be a conversation. This could be like, hey, I'm letting you know, and you might see more of this, and I'm trying this out. I think this would be good for me. I'm trying to, conserve and protect my energy, whatever.
Yeah, I love that, because, contextual conversations, giving friends a heads up. Hey, I've been overextended and I'm trying to take better care of myself. Is that okay with you? That can go a long way, because most good friends are going to say, hell yeah, please. But people that get upset, that's very telling in terms of those relationships.
Yeah. And it can be hard when you're starting to change a dynamic that someone else has really benefited from. And that's not a reason to stop, but you do probably need support. And I think sometimes when we're setting boundaries, let's say that we haven't in a long time, they can come out kind of harsh. And so, we can always work on our skill there, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. Great question. Let's do another quick one. Someone's asking about Villa is asking about the question or Class Friday. if we join the class Friday, will we leave with the knowledge of how to fix a walking on eggshells type of codependent relationship dynamic? I would say, well, we're going to give it our best shot in an hour and a half
Right.
to change how you think about this and to give you very practical street level tools to help you shift something like that night or the next day. I'm a huge proponent of street level. Let's keep this practical, actionable, and you are as well. So I think you're going to leave with a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, and I think you'll know how. You'll be much clearer on how, and then obviously it's like in the day-to-day living over time.
Yeah, that's
because
up to
these
you,
patterns
right?
don't just change in a day or after a class. They can point you in the right direction, and then a lot of us just need ongoing support and practice and getting out of those old patterns.
Yeah. How does shared power work when both say they are not, or they
right.
both say they are right? Don't get the other's point of view and dig their heels in. Yeah, well, that's
fighting.
That's a stage of a relationship where we're stuck. You're stuck there, and then you got to zoom out and talk about how stuck you are. Like, it seems like we're stuck in a dynamic where I feel like I'm right, you feel like you're right. Yeah. I don't feel understood. You probably don't feel understood. How do we want to address that dynamic?
Yeah, and you said it great. Like, don't get the other person's point of view. That is such a big piece, right? It's hard work to sometimes really understand why something's important to someone, where it came from, what it means to them. We could always spend more time on that as partners often, and because often we're getting into arguments before we have that information. And so I would try to find out, like, why are we digging our heels in? What are we afraid of losing? What are we afraid is going to happen if I give and listen to you here? Can we understand before we make any decisions? And you have to work together to do it, and sometimes you might need facilitation. But it would be helpful.
If you can both see the problem, talk about the problem, and you're willing to change the problem, that's good news. Yeah. If you want to dig your heels in about the problem and one of you says, no, I'm fine, you're the one that's wrong, then I don't think that's going to go anywhere.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say about that is work on the problem, not each other. And,
nice.
Try and see if you can both kind of, stand side by side and be like, okay, the issue out there that we're struggling with is this. Yeah. Like, we're both looking at it. We have different perspectives. We're trying to come up with something that works for both of us, but not trying to
you're the problem.
Face off. I think that's what a lot of people end up doing. Sort of, the partners become the problem versus the problem. That makes sense.
Okay, so to repeat, we've got a class Friday, 2 p.m. Mountain Time. Don't worry, you don't have to attend live. It will be recorded, so you can catch the replay over the weekend or next week or in 2 weeks. I highly recommend you come regardless, or you sign up regardless. All right, last question here.
There's a couple more.
Oh.
I don't know if we can get to them all, but...
Oh, yeah, Kristen.
How can I support my partner who's very conflict avoidant, but still have boundaries and not abandon myself? It's a both and, isn't it? How to honor that someone really struggles to come... Jason's directing me to both cameras. How to work with someone who really struggles to face conflict, but also to honor that you need to and want to get somewhere better, and you have to face the conflict to get there. So I think, again, it's like, that with a conflict avoidant person, it's going to help them to come to the table to kind of collaborate with you on how are we going to face this? How are we going to do an argument together? If that person isn't doing that with you yet, I think you're just navigating that territory, and maybe you're, again, being transparent about it. Look, I really want to honor your capacity here to face our conflicts and challenges, and I also want to honor, my own desire to deal with this and get to a better place sooner. Yeah. So I'd love your input on that. I'd love to work with you on that and not be over here by myself trying to figure out how to do this.
You got to be able to, you want to be in relationships where it's okay to talk about what we're scared of and that there's a shared reality. Like, if I'm in a relationship with you and you say you're not, and you're scared of flying, but you keep denying that you're scared of flying, but you won't ever get on a plane. Like, I can't, there's nothing for me to do. We can't get anywhere. But if you say, I am, okay, you're right. I admit I have a fear of flying. We both agree we have a shared reality. There is a fear here. How do we want to address the fear now?
Yeah. We can travel by train. There's other options.
Right. You can take fear of flying
We
classes.
could take a ship.
You can do therapy.
Yeah. There's lots of options when you get to that place.
Yeah. All right. One more?
Sure.
Okay, one more question. Just a reminder to hop on our masterclass on Friday. The link is pinned here in the Instagram chat. It's relationshipschool.com/masterclass.
I love this from Glossy Bees. Should you gently remind your partner if they aren't doing something that we are supposed to be practicing? I love that. I would say absolutely yes. But I would also say that when you agree, like, we need to practice this thing, then you also say, and if one of us forgets or doesn't want to, can I signal you, like, hey, it's time for us to do that thing we said we were going to do?
Is it okay to remind each other?
It's okay to remind each other. And then when we do remind each other, the agreement, I think, has to be that, yes, I will follow in suit. Even if I don't want to, I'm agreeing to it now when we're connected and I have all my faculties, and we have to be willing to be kind of managed. We have to be able to manage each other in some way. And so, but I think that is best to bring up when you're making an agreement or a commitment to practice something.
Yeah. And it's also okay to react to being reminded of the agreement, like, oh God, or getting triggered. And it's okay to react. It's okay to have feelings about it, but as long as we stay in it and do it.
And still do what we agreed to, because we agreed that it would be better for us to try this and do this, even when it's hard, and because that's probably when it's most important to do it.
Completely.
When we're tired, when we don't feel like it, all that stuff.
Yeah. All right. Thanks everyone for your time today. It's been awesome hanging out with you all. Thanks for the sweet questions. Yeah. And hopefully we'll see a bunch of you Friday. And if you can't make it live, don't worry, you can get the recording. Just go to relationshipschool.com/masterclass. All right. Okay, everybody, have a good rest of your day. Thanks. And I got to finish this one.